So it's very seductive to believe that political equality and economic equality go together. But our book argues that's not really the case, that political equality follows in conditions of pretty stark economic inequality.
We decided to write the book out of a dissatisfaction with what had become a conventional story about the relationship between inequality and regime change and democratization, which is that it comes from the historical idea that democracy and inequality are incompatible. But what we found was that this was puzzling because many countries had democratized in the 1980s and 90s precisely when inequality was peaking. And so this became a real intellectual puzzle for us that contradicted this conventional wisdom.
David and I both come from research backgrounds where there are very stark examples in our memories and in the cases that interest us in terms of economic inequality and political equality. So I'm British, and I grew up taking history and learning about the rise of British democratization in the 19th century, right, political equality. But this happened under the same economic conditions of great inequality when Charles Dickens could write Oliver Twist. And so this idea that political equality could only emerge in cases of economic equality seemed a bit off to me. Right? Well, what explained British democratization? And David is a Brazilianist, and here we have a country that democratized recently in conditions of extremely high economic inequality by any standard. So the book was an attempt to figure out whether this relationship between economic equality and political equality that has been very popular among political scientists and seems almost, a morally right connection, whether that's actually something that holds empirically, and whether once we start thinking about economic inequality more deeply, whether theoretically it makes a great deal of sense.
The original articles showed some empirical results and really confirmed for us the conventional wisdom was wrong, but the book, part of the book that really expanded in a fruitful way were the chapters that rooted our argument in classical political philosophy, because the then conventional story about the clash between rich and poor, the average voter, is rooted in an assumption from Marx, in 19th century political thought, that's what politics is about, clash between rich and poor. And so for us to be able to root our argument in Hobbes and Locke and 19th century liberalism, I think people really realized that we weren't just pulling an idea out of thin air and some results that just kind of seemed puzzling to a lot of people, a lot of counterintuitive empirical results. But when we said, look, all of these people 150, 250 years ago said that democracy is really about taxing and spending. It's no taxation without representation. These are familiar ideas to people. And they said, oh, okay, I can understand why inequality might be related to regime change now, now that we understand that inequality means an expanding group of people who want to rein in the power of the leader to tax. So it was really important for us to really build up that part of the story and root it in these long-standing intellectual traditions.